Hello YouTube. Today I'm going to close the series of videos I started about a year ago on the 7 deadly fitness sins. And I took my time because as this video comes out, I am preparing a bigger edition where I'm going to regroup the 7 sins and I'm going to make a more comprehensive analysis of them all because I found some interesting things to discuss with you guys where I'm going to be able to connect all of these themes together to paint a picture of the fitness panorama that we have to deal with on the internet nowadays. But for today, my focus is going to be on gluttony, the final sin to discuss, one that in my opinion is the most obvious but also the least understood. How exactly does gluttony work when it comes to discussing fitness? Well, the first aspect is food, the way we consume it. But there is more than just that, because gluttony is not just the overconsumption of food, it's the overconsumption of anything. And I think that us lifters, we have a tendency to engage in that to our detriment and to the detriment of our environment per se. So the number one culprit would be, of course, the food we eat. And the perfect representation of that would be the 10K calorie challenge that is extremely popular on YouTube Fitness, where you take a guy that really doesn't need that much food, that is going to stuff his face for views and likes, all of that to end up purging himself afterwards and just send all of these calories to waste. Because even if he did manage to keep it down, his body is just going to make fat out of it. And that to me is also the sign of gluttony. Gluttonous people are always represented as fat and overweight. And it's not just a caricature of sorts, it's also a direct representation of their action, what their overindulgence in food does. Because when you eat too much food and your body has no use for the calories, it just makes fat. So when you see someone with fat on their frame, it's a direct sign that at some point or the other they engaged in gluttony, and we all did. I know that for myself, when I was bulking up, I was eating way too much food. Food that went to waste, and not only to waste, it also worsened my health. It's the reason why these sins need to be combated. Not for moral sake, but for our own sake, because we are the ones who suffer from it. And so gluttony in that aspect needs to be combated. Consume food as a finite resource and understand that you only really need what your body needs. Anything below or above is a sign that something is going amiss. And I do believe that, in a sense, underconsumption is also a type of gluttony. It's a type of negative gluttony. But people who starve themselves also engage in that sin because they have lost that balance. They are not in tune with what they really need, and they have ceased to regard food as a necessary item for life. They look at it as something completely different, either as something shameful that shouldn't be consumed because it's sinful, or as something that brings pleasure and has lost any type of actual value when it comes to sustaining life. In both cases, it's either directly impacting your life and your health because you are under eating, or it's doing the exact same thing because you're overeating. It exists on both sides of the spectrum. But beyond the food thing, we can also look at other aspects of things that we can consume as fitness enthusiasts that can qualify as gluttony. And I think that paradoxically, YouTube Fitness is also a big culprit. The videos you watch, that plays a role as well. Information is also a type of consumable. And so the videos you watch constantly can also qualify as gluttony and as a gluttonous behavior if you are constantly watching YouTube Fitness, if there is no point, or even worse, if it actually damages your mental health. And I'm sure that it does. If I could look at the videos you watch, I could find at least 40% of them that do nothing for you, that are just negatively impacting your life. But you cannot stop consuming them. That is the problem with gluttony and sins in general. If they were just negative, then no one would be sinful. But they always have a slight tinge of pleasure, of something that is going to keep us going back to that very thing. Even though deep down we know in our subconscious that what we're doing is wrong, it's negative, it's not leading us towards where we want to be, yet we keep doing it. And the media, the very format of the media on YouTube Fitness is in a sense shaped like food. It's made to be consumable, it's made to be desirable and pleasurable to eat, even if it lacks any other properties. The gluttonous mind cannot recognize the value of what it consumes. That truly is the case. And you see that with people who are, again, skewed towards the food aspect of things. Rare is the man who is overweight who is going to look at the nutrient value of the food he consumes. He only cares about the taste. He only cares about stuffing his face. And maybe you do the same on YouTube Fitness. You don't know or care about what you consume because you think, or rather you have come to believe, it has no repercussion. And so you eat and you watch and you eat and you watch and you just lose sight of who you are. Because eventually, and that's the thing with all of these sins, but gluttony is much more obvious, it changes who you are deep down. So if you overeat, it's going to change your physical appearance. It's, as I said, more obvious and just blatant, but the psychological aspect is just as severe in both of these cases. And so what do we do? Because with all of these sins, it's a normal animalistic portion that can be controlled by our simple human intelligence. Well, in that case, you're going to have to ask yourself, why am I consuming this? Right? Question consumption. I know a lot of people don't do that, and it's something that is extremely important, in my opinion, in this modern world. You're essentially a geese that is being fed to death, right? The geese has no choice, it has to be fed. But for you, you have the ability to control what is being, in a sense, injected or that you're ingesting in terms of total body control. It is your agency to do so, and you should be doing so. You should be doing that. So to be able to reject gluttony, you will have to have an awareness of sorts and think about what happens. Think about your body and the temple that it is and the things that enter that temple. You will find that some of these are intruders and they do not belong. And rejecting them is going to allow you to still consume, because as a human we consume without all of the problems associated with that. And so to me, that is really gluttony in the fitness sphere. It is the big problem we're dealing with, that young people are struggling with, of course, because we are being bombarded with information, and at some point it becomes tough to actually, make a clear distinction between what is good for us, what is bad for us. And once we're engaging in that mindset of overconsumption, we lose sight because we are just in the rhythm. We don't even know what's going on. And for sins in general, that's always the same thing. No one becomes sinful and starts losing value because they want to. No one enters that vicious circle and cycle by design. It's always something that you just slip into. It's out of your control. And at some point you wake up one day and you think to yourself, how did I end up here? Well, it's a lack of awareness. You didn't ask yourself the correct questions, and now you have to give answers that you just don't have. And for us, for your sake, and also for a psychological discussion that is going to also verse into religion and values and virtues, I am going to craft a longer video, as I said, where I'm going to take all of those 7 sins, put them together, connect them, create peripherals, and as I said, explain the situation we're dealing with, the sins that you have in you and I have in my own self, and try to resolve them together as we walk and evolve towards being better people. If you want to revisit the other videos I made on this series, you can check the description. That is going to be it for tonight. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.